Where's my prop? Yeah, I'm talking right now and singing. And go for it. I gotta wipe some lipstick off my teeth. Here we go. Hello, my belly dance friends. Thank you for joining me here today. We get to chat with my dear friend, April Rose. That's right. And I'm going to ask her about her Bellydance Cohesion format and all the research that went into it. April did an entire thesis on belly dance, culture, history, everything. She found loads of resources. She put together a lot of information that has culminated into Bellydance Cohesion information. If you guys haven't heard of the Bellydance Cohesion program, it's April's new dance certification program as well as teacher training program. It includes historical context, musicality, cultural context, improvisation. You learn how to drum, you learn finger symbol patterns. It's really comprehensive and it's a way for people to learn about why this dance is the way it is today and how to portray it with the utmost respect. For those of you who may not know who April Rose is, she is a beautiful, talented belly dancer based out of Austin, Texas. She is a solo performer who teaches and performs worldwide. She is a former member of the troupe Un Mata from California, led by Amy Sigil, who created ITS. April was also a part of the Bellydance Superstars cast and has also collaborated with a lot of other belly dancers. I actually moved to Austin to learn from April. She is a brilliant teacher, she's a beautiful dancer, and she likes to talk about a lot of things culturally, historically, that were left out of my personal dance education, which is why I wanted to be a part of the earlier programs that she was running. So not only was I learning from her workshops how to become a choreographer, how belly dance has evolved, musicality evolved in a lot of traditional belly dance, and a lot of fusion technique, but she was also having her students ask the question, why dance? So not taking it for granted was really important, and gaining individual perspective on why belly dance was so important to each student was something that was pretty particular in her education. So today I want to talk to April about her experience and process researching belly dance for her thesis project, how that's influenced her work as a teacher and an artist, and how Bellydance Cohesion was formulated. So without further ado, here's April.
Hey Blair.
It's so nice to see you. I got to see you a couple days ago at your Bellydance Cohesion workshop, but it's not the same as being in person. It was an awesome workshop, but now you get a little time to read and study. How are you doing during quarantine?
I'm doing really great, actually. I'm enjoying the slowdown, and I feel so grateful for all the opportunities I have to dance with people online, including you. And I feel so grateful that my husband can still work. He's a gardener, so his job is pretty much social distanced already.
Yeah.
And I'm just getting tuned into what I need to do to manage anxiety and fear about the future. And that has been a blessing in disguise. And I'm really loving the opportunity to connect with myself. And I'm also connecting with new people in these online classes. So honestly, it's been really amazing, even though it's hard to watch the news and it's hard to take it all in. But I'm trying to figure out what I can do in a social justice front to help contribute to the society that I want us to be living in, because it is so disheartening sometimes to look at what's going on.
Yeah, it's been pretty rough to see some of the worst things that have been happening, but I agree. I think it's been nice to have at least a little bit of forced solitude to really pay attention and see what's happening and kind of figure out where your part is in it and how you can be a better part of it, a more positive, impactful part. Well, I'm really excited about your Bellydance Cohesion program for many reasons, but one of the main reasons is because when I moved to Austin to work with you and learn from you, one of the many things that I was really attracted to about what you were teaching was the history and the cultural information behind the movement that we were creating, which was something I was really lacking earlier on as a beginner dancer. And then as I started to try to become a more professional dancer, I was teaching classes and working with other professional dancers. It was something I was having to seek out. So the fact that you did so much information made it amazingly accessible. And I was wondering what exactly inspired you to just delve in. I mean, look at all those resources you have. How did you even find all of those books? Like, how are those available? It's just incredible.
You know, some of these books are really good, and some of these books are just for fun. They're more like collector's items, and I just put them all out here because why not?
Hell yeah.
But how did I get into it? Well, I went to UCLA to get my bachelor's originally in English because I wanted to pursue teaching and writing. But into my freshman year, I met some amazing dancers who were a part of the dance department and were getting their bachelor's in dance. And I was inspired to audition for the dance department. And so I did. And I did a sort of like transnational fusion, what we used to call tribal fusion type dance. And the faculty, I think, was surprised and intrigued and like, okay, yeah, let's let this girl in here and see what we can do to broaden her mind. And they certainly did. I had my mind broadened, I had my ideas challenged, and it was a wonderful opportunity. So much so that I continued on to get my master's degree from the same department of World Arts and Cultures. And I think originally my inspiration for delving into what is belly dance and what is the history of this dance form came from my need to explain myself to my professors and to my academic dance community. And being a post-colonial studies, cultural studies department, we really talked a lot about Orientalism and cultural appropriation and the use of the word tribal and oriental in the dance form that I practice. And it was a fun challenge to dig deep. And I had to learn about where the dance came from or ideas about where the dance came from so that I could find my own relationship to the dance and figure out where I sat in regards to cultural appropriation versus cultural citation and appreciation. And I really wanted to find a solid ground from which to speak about the dance that meant so much to me. You know, some of these books seem quick to throw the dance under the bus and say, you know, this is really just Arab face and it's middle-class white ladies pretending to be something other and it's harmful. And all of those things are true in many cases, more cases than I want. But I also know that the dance is a site for identity formation and community, and that there is something very powerful about it to connect to my body and to connect to the women around me, and that it revolutionized my life. And I wanted to figure out how I could make it all make sense.
Yeah, and that's another thing that is really great about all the research that you've done is you are brave enough to bring up topics that are kind of hard to talk about, like cultural appropriation and being respectful of other dancers, which seems, and cultures, which seems very basic, like something that we should have been talking about the whole time, but it's really, it seems like it's a newly emerging subject. So it's really great to have another platform for that as well.
And since I started down this road, I think the subject is way more in the forefront. I mean, like, people are really hungry for the history and for figuring out their own role in what they're choosing to represent or identify with, much more than they were, you know, even 10 years ago. I think now it's much more common for people to be engaging in that conversation. And a lot of these books have come out in the last few years that have really contributed toward the research that is being done.
Yeah, was there a lot available when you were doing your research a few years back, or like is a lot of this that you have out there much newer? Like, in the last couple of years. Is it difficult to hunt down these sources and to find things that were, I mean, I'm sure not all of these are super obviously about the content that you were looking for or the information you were looking for. You probably had to look at some more random sources to find information on historical instances or specific styles of dance within belly dance.
You know where there's a lot of good information is in burlesque research. As far as the American vaudeville representation of Oriental dance, you can find a lot of good information in the research that's being done in that realm. And also I came to Austin for a summer while I was still getting my degree at UCLA, and I went to the archives of, I can't remember the name of the institute off the top of my head, but it was this guy's house, and it was like this old Victorian looking house, and it was an entire library full of like LPs and magazines, and basically he had been collecting folk dance magazines. Like there was one called Viltis, and he needed somebody to like modernize his archives, so it was mostly like a lot of scanning and digitizing and collating. But I also went through all these old folk dance magazines, and anything related to belly dance in there I kept a copy of, and sometimes if he had double copies he would give me a copy of. And I wonder where those magazines are right now. I didn't pull those out, but I have a bunch of magazines as well, and LPs that I got from him, and I was able to digitize LPs and stuff. That was really cool.
Wow, that's a super random resource.
And you know, a couple of these books have come out since I graduated, like Egyptian Belly Dance in Transition, which is a really great one, and Before They Were Belly Dancers. These are some of the greatest resources, really, these two books, and they're more recent. But when I was doing my thesis, I used this book a lot by Stavros Stavroukariani, and also this Barbara Sellers Young Anthony Shea belly dance book, and also this one, Female Singers and Dancers in Egypt by Karen Van Newkirk, and Looking for Little Egypt Down Here by Donna Carlton, who I met in an elevator and had like a little fangirl moment for.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and also this book that was a PhD dissertation written by a man named Paul Monti, who early on started to organize a lot of the Arab dance seminars and belly dance and Raqs Sharqi Oriental dance seminars. And he unfortunately died before he was able to turn it into a book, but it's this really thick thesis, and if you want to read it, you have to be pretty much associated with an institution of learning, and then you have to put it on interlibrary loan for months because there's only a couple copies, and that was probably the most key resource that I used, was his PhD dissertation. But what's cool about this book here is that it uses Arabic language resources, and a lot of these other books use English language text, which rightly should not be thrown out, because, you know, like Edward Lane and such did a lot of really useful data gathering, and there are tons of drawings and descriptions of people in colonial Egypt and how they dressed and who they associated with, but it's through the lens of an outsider, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. So I am pretty excited about this book being out, and who knows what else is coming out now. I mean, people are doing research all the time, and we're constantly adding to the body of knowledge that we have about this dance form.
Definitely. It sounds like a lot of this is what has maybe comprised your Bellydance Cohesion historical information. Is that what you ended up basing your format off of to an extent, or was this just an extension of what you wanted your format to be?
You know, I wanted to include historical information, and I also wanted to include musical information. So there's Middle Eastern rhythms and instrumentation, because I think really understanding on a basic level the music, the instruments, and the rhythms associated with this dance form is pretty key to learning to dance. And I also wanted to include inspiration on why are we dancing in the first place? Because I learned from some early experiences with some dance students who felt very upset by the academic technical approach that I originally had brought with me to my teaching journey. I found that some people felt alienated by the historical information, and that those people are sometimes the ones who need the information the most. So instead of coming out of grad school and sort of imposing that critical mindset onto dancers who sometimes weren't even interested in history, they just wanted to learn dance, was counterproductive. So I wanted to find a way where I could honor people's experience who, like me, found great personal significance in the stories that they were told and are retold about why this dance is important to them and to people throughout time and in different cultures, and also bring into bear some research about, okay, some of these stories don't have a basis in any academic research that I can find, and some of them may be valuable and they just go a little bit too far back to really prove, but we do know certain things, so let's look at what we do know. And rather than sort of throwing out the old stories, like this book, Serpent of the Nile, and this other one, Grandmother's Secrets. Those are the two books that before these others came out, or when people didn't have access to these academic books, they were using these two books, Serpent of the Nile and Grandmother's Secrets, to figure out what this dance is and why it's important to them. And so sometimes it's useful to have those books and to look at them and see what are these stories, and try to find a way to be inclusive with the information and not push people away, but value people's personal stories and just kind of like gently nudge them toward questioning how that benefits their own personal story, and if it does or does not benefit the cultures from which they are receiving their inspiration.
Yeah, there's so much to think about when you start to kind of unravel it all, especially when you know that people are coming into the dance for a variety of different reasons or for a varied amount of time. It was nice to be able to touch on all of that.
Because for a lot of people, this dance is about personal healing. They may be healing from a past trauma. They may be just learning how to exist in community, you know, and I want to value those experiences of finding healing in the dance as well.
Are there any specific inspirations in the field of dance that helped you as you were building your Bellydance Cohesion program? Any specific programs that you had seen, or just dancers that have helped influence, or teachers that you had that helped push you along the way at any point in time to decide you wanted to incorporate all this information into one program?
Definitely. One of my early teachers was Dalila Morad in Sacramento, and she told me a lot of these stories, and I was of course influenced by her. And then a later teacher of mine, still very early on in my life, when I was 16, the first teacher I was exposed to when I was 11. At 16, I started dancing with Amy Sigil, and I started becoming exposed to fusion and learning group improvisation. And that's where I found that I could actually get my college professors on board with understanding how this alternative sort of subculture associated with belly dance was actually a site for community formation and identity expansion, and was through the idea of group improvisation. And so I was definitely influenced by those two. And I also was influenced by Sahra Saida's Journey Through Egypt program, which is really fascinating and interesting, and I definitely recommend people check that out. Also, the researchers and female academics that I studied from and that were on my committee, who are Vic Marks and Janet O'Shea and Susan Foster, and also all of the members in my cohort when I was in college. I mean, like, I went to school with some of the most talented and intelligent, amazing artists that I know still today, and I see what they do with their lives now, and it's so inspiring, and they do such meaningful work that I can only hope to incorporate something as meaningful as what they do. And also, you know, when it came to the program Bellydance Cohesion that I created, like, there's a book that I'm really proud of, the syllabus, where everything's laid out. And my mom had a big part to play in that. She's created her own yoga teacher training before, and she looked at my original syllabus that I had for Bellydance Cohesion, and she was like, no, this isn't good. You need to, I mean, she didn't say this isn't good, but she was like, you know, you need to organize this differently and create more space for people to write their own notes and create an index, and you need to write a letter, you know, in the back so people know who you are and you have a personal touch on it. And she was extremely influential in what goes on in that book. Her name is Anne DePrado. And let's see, those are the people who come to mind right away.
Lots of inspiration along the way, but you've been in belly dance for a while now, so you've been able to kind of see a lot of the changes that have happened within the community and how it's continuing to evolve and be a part of that. So that's really special.
Yes, and I remember actually I took a year off of my studies to go on tour with Bellydance Superstars. And I remember at that time I had like hairy armpits. I still do sometimes, but and I fancied myself, you know, very academic and punk rock at the same time, and they wanted to hire me for a show called Bombay Bellywit, so where they would combine classical Indian dance and Oriental dance or rock Sharqi. And I had been studying classical Indian dance at the time at UCLA, and I had a calendar, a Bellydance Superstars calendar, and they were like, on every page was like a gorgeous, sexy photo of one of the dancers, and like, you know, surrounded in like butterflies or whatever.
Of course.
And I took it into one of my professors, Susan Foster, and I was like, you know, I have the opportunity to take time off of my degree pursuits and join this dance company and go around the world and dance with them. And she took the calendar and she looked through it, and like I thought she might say something like, oh no, you can't do that, that would be counterproductive to what we're trying to do here. But she was like, well, of course you should do that. You can do the best research ever in that respect, and go out and learn and go be a part of this. And if you have the opportunity to make money as a dancer, like that's pretty unique and amazing. Like you should go for it and just take it as a study opportunity itself and take notes and come back and incorporate what you learn.
Oh, that's rad. And then you had Bellydance Superstar fun. Yeah, it's really interesting just hearing you say that about kind of even being a little hesitant to show your advisor or to show your department what you were planning on doing, and having that be within the realm of dance. I know that, like, as you had mentioned before, it's kind of hard to settle in for myself confidently into saying that I am doing this in any capacity, whether it's a profession or a hobby or whatever, without having to feel like I have to defend it as well. And that's interesting that it would happen in a dance department of all places.
Oh yeah, definitely had to defend it a lot, but also look at it and see what was indefensible.
April, thanks for chatting about all this stuff today. It was really great to see you and to hear about the process. I've gotten to learn from you for a little while now, and there were some stories in there I hadn't heard yet, so that was super exciting on top of just getting to visit with you.
Thank you for asking me to speak. It's an honor.
All right, well, there you have it. If you haven't already checked out April's program, I'll have a link to Bellydance Cohesion down below so that you can look at the calendar and any upcoming events or workshops that are near you. She also has weekly online classes, which I will also link below. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today, guys. If you like this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and push that red button. And if you would like to be notified of any uploads to this channel, you can press that notification bell and have immediate action taken. I will have another special guest for us next Sunday. And if you're interested in tutorials, this coming Wednesday, I will have another special secret guest for some makeup tips. All right, thanks you guys. I think that's it.